Welcome to Alan Fulle's Art Interviews. I'm your host, Alan Fulle. I interview artists from the Pacific Northwest and beyond. Join me as we unlock the magic and mystery of these amazing artists. I'm interested in the techniques, process, tools, and approaches these artists use to make masterwork. Kate, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's cool.
So you brought a beautiful, cool painting. I love your the color and the. Tell us all about it.
Oh, well, it started with a photo that I saw, and I found the photo compelling, and I decided to make a painting of it. I edited it quite a bit from the original photo, quite a bit, but there was something about the women that was compelling to me. Even her gaze is kind of the same in the photo. But then once I have the spirit of the thing, then I can kind of hold the spirit but play with the materials. So like this is oil pastel here, but just scratched on her arms and her shirt. There's just a lot in there. I like to kind of draw but mess it up, make things a weird size, like everybody's feet is really strange. This is like a fireplace, but people see it as a pelvis. I think because it's so much mother and child, once they're there, they go to the pink and they think pelvis, but it's, in my mind, it was a fireplace. But I really kind of love when people go with it and change it to what they see and see a new thing, because part of the reason I make the art is to be inspired by the spirit of maybe a place for a landscape or a person for a photo, or sometimes I make a painting of a friend. Be inspired by that spirit, but also take off into some weird other place. So kind of set it up, feel strongly, but then, and go strongly in the art, but then kind of break it and make art from the new thing. So the new thing where I break something is very, that's kind of the flux. Even getting stuck or making a mistake is the flux. So, I hate that. That looks terrible. It turns into something that I hadn't planned, and it's an opportunity. And if I can see it and work with it, it turns into a new invention that I didn't even know I was inventing, and that's fun. And so if I'm playing with the art, then that's the better result.
Yeah, I like how you're kind of dancing with that muse a little bit, or kind of incorporating that change or that development. I see that.
Yeah, I dance with the muse. The muse dances with me. I mean, making art is finally a solitary thing, because you're very much in your head with your art supplies as the extension of your brain. And it can be a lonely thing, and so you kind of have to talk back to the self-doubt, and you have to maybe envision something, plan it somewhat, but also be ready for what develops in front of you. I mean, if it's going well, there's a flow that maybe is the muse that I try to just make room for and not control.
That's great. So you're able to kind of channel it, but there's a certain amount of playful interaction with it where you don't quite know that big picture. And I think that you describe it as the flux. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a beautiful place where you allow that space to grow on its own. A painting could speak its own kind of language, or it describes itself in a way that it's not as deliberative as...
Yeah, it's like the language. I mean, I really love language. My dad was an English teacher and my mom was a librarian, and I love language. I love books. I love reading still. If it's going well, the language is kind of inventing itself right there. Like, I can make a painting of two women, and if I plan it too much, it's too static, and it bores me. And if I'm bored, it's bad. It's a flat tire. So it's a painting of two women, but with decisions along the way that engage me just in their own little world. Like, I'm just camped out right here in the way her hands are made, and I find it interesting. And if I find it interesting, then I'm doing something that maybe has an interesting result. So hopefully you like it.
I do like it. So the imagery, the two women, I seem to, you have a lot of women in your paintings. Do you draw men, or primarily explore women's?
Primarily women. I do paint men sometimes. I'm married to one. I have two sons. I'm absolutely a feminist, but love lots of men, and try to operate with love. And so that's kind of the way I stride forward, is with love. So it's a positive more than a negative. I maybe over include women if you feel that way, but it's a great big gathering of women as a positive thing, not as an exclusive thing.
Now, did you have strong women role models, like your mother or aunts or grandmothers, that influenced your experience? Or?
I think I did. I think both of my parents were fairly liberal and pointed to women, strong women. I remember studying the Renaissance in 6th grade and being impressed. I mean, well, Queen Elizabeth I, there's plenty that you could object to with her, but I noticed that she understood that if she got married, she would only be the queen. But if she didn't get married, she would be the queen, the ruling queen. And I noticed the difference, and I was just kind of impressed with her savviness. I think I really enjoy finding women on an ongoing basis who are strong and inspiring, and I definitely keep them in mind as teachers on an ongoing basis. I hope to keep learning, and I think there are lots of incredible women all around that are teaching me, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the women that went before me who really built that, and I'm very conscious of that too.
Yes, great.
So yes, shout out to my mom.
And so this scene you have, this lovely, intimate scene where this figure is nursing this child, and this figure is sort of conversing and sharing in this intimacy. Can you explore that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a straight on thing of a sweet, intimate gathering. There's certainly tension in her face, and there's sort of a far off look in her face. So they're together, they're supporting each other, but there's sort of an immediate understanding that they're in a context that they have to deal with. So it's sweet, but not like, I don't even know what I was talking about. That looks like a wrestling mask on the baby, and that just happened, and that's what the painting became, and I don't even know exactly what I mean about that. Some stuff just happens, and the painting becomes its own thing, and really I'm grateful when it does.
And the two women's, the coloration of their eyes and lips are this kind of strange green. Is that kind of, is there a psychology bond between them, or is that about the consciousness of?
That's a really interesting question. There is a bond between the women. And my choice of green, I think, had to do with the strength of the women. I mean, I chose a really strong color to, that's what I started with, to draw them out. But I wanted to include the drawings as coming through. I didn't want to just have, oh, that's the underpainting, now I know where the nose goes. It's the drawings in a lot of my paintings become part of the painting, but also are kind of messed up or mixed up. Like her fingers are drawn, but they're also scratched through. So there is a bond, and is the green significant about the bond? Yes, in that's when I started the painting, I was drawing with green, and I was impressed with the two women and who they were and who they projected out of the photo. And so really a lot of paintings start with me finding something compelling about a person in a photo. Wow, look at that person, look at that gaze, that's so compelling. I want to talk about that. I want to include that in a painting. I want to make that the basis for a painting. And it winds up not being a portrait of that exact person, but it includes that person, if you could imagine such a thing. It's that person plus whoever they grow into while I paint.
So do you have kind of a spiritual or religious underpinning of your work? Is there?
Well, I was raised Quaker, and Quakers believe that God is inside of you. And I'm not a religious person, but I do really very much operate from love, like all the time. And I had for my outside job, my day job was nonprofit work. So how lucky am I working to help people in my day job and painting at night or painting in retirement. And so that's very much operating with love. And there are days when I just really genuinely love everyone, and there are days when I don't. But love, I think, if I have a spiritual underpinning, it's love. And the paintings really are about loving people and loving places. And for me, sitting with that love involves a lot of wiggling, a lot of play, a lot of, okay, I really love this, and now I'm going to play. And where do I take that? And how do I say that? And that's kind of that's the path it takes.
So if you had, this one last opportunity before you die to tell the world something really important, what would you tell us?
Play and operate with love. It's a good place to start off from. It's hard, but it just keep renewing it. Keep renewing the play and the love.
That's great. Do you have a practice? Do you meditate or do some kind of practice to keep you engaged with this path? What do we glean from this experience other than the conceptual quality of what you're saying? Is there something it's tangible that we can you teach us how to be loving and playful?
How to be loving and playful. Okay, so a parallel, I guess, to Quaker belief is if Quakers believe that there's God in everyone, artists believe that there's magic in themselves. And I certainly believe that there's magic in everyone, and really believe it. And so sitting with your own magic, making room for your own magic, having faith in your own magic intentionally, it's something you have to kind of intentionally wake up, set up, make happen. But making room for your own magic is right there with love.
I love that. That's beautiful. What about is there a political dimension to your work?
Well, I definitely have my political perspectives, but if I made political art, I think it would be tedious. That would be tedious work. People make amazing political work, like Guernica, or amazing stuff happens when people express political views. But for me, it more just kind of leaks in. Sometimes I try not to listen to the news when I paint, but sometimes the news is so compelling that I can't turn it off. And so sometimes it leaks into the paintings. I guess the choice of painting women, I think, could be considered political. And in a way, I don't consider it political. In a way, I consider it life. But people have different perspectives about that.
What about other artists that are influential for you personally, or that your work expresses? Can you name some specific artists that you find compelling?
Yeah, well, I look at art a lot. I mean, the internet has given us good things and bad things, but it really helps me look at a lot of art all the time, maybe too much sometimes. But like Henry Taylor is just a mind-blowingly talented and compelling painter. Chantal Jaffe really brings the spirit of the person so strongly through very loose painterly rendering of the portrait, and that is exciting to me when it's not too tightly held. I think when it's too tightly held, you squeeze the life out of it, and so Chantal Jaffe can just really bring it for the spirit of a person and painterly love. Alice Neal, can't go wrong with Alice Neal. It goes on and on. I mean, I'm really happiest when I'm discovering new art online and the effect that it has on me. I try to keep it moving mentally as an artist and otherwise. So yeah, just lots and lots of people. And also people will surprise me. Like sometimes I get in a track where I'm looking at the work that is the same kind of work that I'm making, but then sometimes I'll look at something else and that's really inspiring. And then sometimes I'll be stuck and I'll be driving and look at a billboard and go, oh my God, that blue is what I needed in that painting. So you have to be kind of ready for inspiration to be everywhere, on the floor, in the trash can. Yeah.
So you're in a place to discover influences and be ready for inspiration to strike?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll be inspired by someone's work, not to do that same thing, but it'll give me an idea that if I sort of turn it 45 degrees, maybe I want to cut a photo and use it in a mosaic kind of way, in a collage. Sometimes I use fabric, not here, but sometimes I'll put fabric in a painting and use that kind of as a foil to bounce in and out of, what is this painting? Is it like a rendition of a 3D space? Is it a flat piece of fabric? What are we doing here? And so go back and forth with space. And so sometimes like a material thing can not only be an inspiration, but slap right on the painting, or the fabric is just something that I'm thinking about and I'm painting over here.
Yeah, I really like how you explore that deep space and near space and mid space. Mm-hmm. I think that's successful. And you were talking about, bringing in different nail polish and, different materials and maybe even collage. And I think that's a great place.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost more realistic in terms of space, rendering a space, than I usually am. Usually I'll render a space, but then I'll break the agreement between the viewer and the artist is, you're looking at a 3D space. See, the lines go back. That's what it does. It's good. I'll set that up, but then kind of break it with something that's undeniably flat. And you just have to sit there and bounce with that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So is there anything else that you want to share that you need to?
Come find my work. Come talk to me. I love talking to people. I love yeah, I love engaging with people and their reaction to my art. I thank you for making this video. I thank you for supporting artists in Seattle. It's really important. So come see this on YouTube. Come see my work at kateharkins.com and Instagram and Core Gallery and Columbia City Gallery, both in Seattle. And I'll see you out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Alan. Great to talk. Hi, I'm Kate Harkins. I'm a visual artist in Seattle. I'm pleased to be welcoming Alan Fulle to the studio. Alan, thank you for coming. Come on in. Alan makes art interviews, really cool videos that showcase artists in Seattle. And I'm fortunate to be able to be talking to you today through his YouTube channel. So yay, come on in. Here's a bunch of art that I pulled out for you all to see and Alan to see. Recent paintings, pretty much all made with acrylic and lots of different kinds of materials, spray paint, nail polish, ink. It goes on from there. I've been painting figurative recently, but I also like to paint landscapes. Sometimes I kind of mix it up. It really just depends. I start with something that is compelling to me. It might be a portrait of a person that I know, like Sandra over here, or it might be, this is a photo I took in Naples. Probably even shouldn't have taken that photo. She's right ready to come over and smack me for taking her photo. But it wound up to be a cool photo and it turned into a painting. There's friends in some of the paintings and some of them are just photos that I found. So when I first moved to Seattle in 2000, I was raising my kids and making art in my basement, different house. And it was lonely, and because I didn't really have connections in Seattle, and I didn't completely have faith in my art yet. And I really am kind of a team player. I've had a life of, for my job, doing work in nonprofits with homeless individuals and families and youth and seniors. And so I really am a team player. I enjoy a team, and what I did with my loneliness as an artist was make a pretend team. There's a whiteboard right there that I wrote. Every week I would just admire somebody for some quality that they had, and I would put them on my pretend team, and then I didn't feel so lonely. I had this team that was backing me up for whatever quality I admired. Somebody really had a strong backbone. Yeah, I need that person on my team. So I made a pretend team, and that's kind of what the whiteboard's about. But I guess I tell that story to talk about really the more fundamental part of my art, which is about play and about pretend. And I really enjoy using lots and lots of different materials like spray paint, nail polish, ink, acrylic, paint pen. It goes on. And it's play. I kind of will, if it's a picture of a person, I'll see a photo that's compelling to me for some reason. It just speaks to me, and I'll start painting the person from the photo, and it turns into its own character. And I really believe in the development of that character, and it's like pretend. I'm making a new person out of paint, and while I'm playing with paint, but it's not a direct transcription. The play is very important, and the materials are very important. And in fact, getting stuck is very important because sometimes that's where the invention happens. So I'm not looking to make a direct copy of a photo. I'm making a new thing, and that person is speaking to me. Growing up, my father was an English teacher and my mother was a librarian, and books were very important to me, and the characters were very important to me. And I read this book by E.B. White. He wrote Stuart Little, and the book was called The Trumpeter's Swan, and the characters are swans, and to get out of the zoo, to get their freedom, they give away their children. And I wrote to E.B. White and said, "What's the matter with you? You had the swans give away their children. That's terrible." And I think I was like 10 or something. And his wife, Catherine White, wrote back. She was a serious writer in her own right, and she said, "E.B. says when he creates his characters, he's no longer responsible for them." And I think that's part of what I'm saying, is that the characters become new entities by themselves. And so that's a conversation between me and this pretend person that I made. And it's very much a conversation between me and the paint. So I'll make a portrait, but really want to mess with it and sort of break it apart and put it back together again, because for me, that's more interesting. So, like, for instance, Chantal Jaffe, she is a figurative painter, and her work is deeply compelling to me, partly because she is absolutely conveying that person without being overly realistic. The spirit of the person comes through stronger almost because she's playing with the paint. And playing with the paint, I think, makes it more exciting for me, makes it hopefully more exciting for the viewer. I'd rather kind of set it up and break it and make it new to make a whole new thing than a direct copy of a person. I think the spirit comes through, and she's talented in being able to be evocative both about the person and about the paint itself, which for me is very exciting.
Thanks for watching Alan Fulle's Art Interviews. I hope you learned as much as I did about visual art from the Pacific Northwest and beyond. Please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes coming soon.